Greetings, good people. Welcome back to the Judgy podcast. I'm your host, Tanya McKenzie, crisis communications strategist and PR professional. And I am also the woman who has been waiting for a story like this. Tanya is my name and controlling the narrative is my game. And today we are talking about two people who let the narrative run so far in front of them that it lapped them twice. Okay? So buckle up. We're about to get into this conversation. Let me ask you something. Let me just ask you something. If I told you that a journalist started covering a married NFL head coach in 2018 and was photographed kissing that same head coach at a bar in New York in 2020, got engaged 6 months later and had a baby the following year and named that baby Michael, and that coach's full name happens to be Michael George Vrabel, would you call that a source relationship? Would you call that a business relationship? Because I would not. I absolutely would not. And let me give you the full timeline here on Mike Vrabel and Dianna Russini, because that's what we're talking about. Because the timeline is the story. And the timeline has receipts. And we're gonna get into that because I think that's what's important here. All right. So in 2015, Dianna Russini joins ESPN as a SportsCenter anchor. In 2017, she moves to the NFL beat full time. 2018, Mike Vrabel is named head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Russini gets assigned to cover him. Okay. This was her job, but she needed to cover him closely for the next 5 years. She had sideline access, 5 years of locker room conversations, 5 years of league meetings, press conferences, phone calls, and sources. Now, before I continue, can we just stop and appreciate the intimacy of that kind of access? The NFL reporters are embedded in the organization and in the lives of the people that they are covering. They are in the buildings, they are in the cities, they are texting and calling these coaches for information. It's a relationship business. That is by design. You build good relationships to be able to have transparent and frank conversations. And Dianna Russini, she was exceptional at it. She was amazing at her job, but maybe too exceptional. I don't know. Your thoughts? But let me keep going while you think on that. March 11th, 2020, photos were published by Page 6. In April 2026, 6 years later, the photos from March 11th, 2020 were published in April 2026. 6 years later, dear Lord, who was holding on to these photos? Obviously, whoever had these pictures and held on to them did it for a reason. They show Mike and Dianna at Tribeca Tavern in New York City, kissing, okay, intimate. Witnesses say they were, and I quote, all over each other. Vrabel had his ring on. He had his wedding ring on. Eyewitnesses noted the ring. They saw the ring. So for those that might not have known them, they may have thought they were the married couple. At this moment, Russini is at ESPN. Vrabel is with the Titans. He is their head coach. Both of them are married, just not to each other. 5 days after those pictures were taken, Russini published a report about the Titans' rumored interest in Tom Brady. 5 days after these pictures, 5 days later, she was reporting on his team, right? I'm going to let you sit with that and understand how the intimate relationship between a journalist and her subject can be when we're talking about NFL. It could be NFL, NBA, any sport that has a head coach with a lot of power and a journalist that has the ear and the eyes of the general public. This is a very intimate relationship, professionally already. So then it becomes personal. September 2020, Dianna Russini, she marries Kevin Goldschmidt. 6 months after those kissing photos were taken, she got married. August 7th, 2021, Russini gives birth to her first son. She and her husband named the son Michael Andrew. His name is Michael. His name is Michael. Wrap your mind around that. Mike Vrabel's full name is Michael George Vrabel. Now the baby is almost 4, okay? The baby is almost 4 years old. And if you do the math on the conception timeline relative to those 2020 photos, the internet already did it. Loud. The dates are in the neighborhood. That's all it is. The dates are in the neighborhood. I want to be very clear. The question of that child's paternity is a family matter, not a podcast matter, not an internet matter. The children deserve privacy, period. But here is what matters in the public eye. A journalist who was allegedly personally involved with the coach she was covering produced reporting about the coach for 5 years across 2 major outlets, and nobody at ESPN, and apparently nobody at The Athletic caught it or addressed it. ESPN won't even confirm whether they ever recused Russini from the Titans coverage. Never. They declined to comment on the whole thing. They highlighted her Mike Vrabel interview in a 2021 press release about her contract extension. They stationed her in the Titans war room for the 2023 NFL draft. The man she is now photographed kissing in the war room for the draft. Is this making sense to you? This is not just a personal problem. This is an institutional problem. And it stretches from 2018 all the way to right now, 2026. I want you to think about that. Now, let me run down for you our Gates model of crisis communications. This is our framework at Sand and Shores, literally what I do. G is for gathering information. A is acknowledging there's a problem and your part in it. T is to tell us what you are going to do to take accountability. E is to explain how you're going to fix things. S is to stay the course, be consistent, not performative. This is how we run our crisis comms. So for Mike, that means G, gathering information. Well, he gets an F on that. He responded before he even knew what else was coming, okay? He used the word laughable on Tuesday when a reporter asked him about the pictures. Then on Thursday, he admitted his actions did not meet his own standard. You do not call something laughable and then confess in the same week. That is not crisis management. That's whiplash. He gave us all whiplash. First it's laughable and now you need help. You need to go to therapy. Come on, bro. Do better. Acknowledging what had happened. He gets a C on that, okay? Maybe a C minus. He eventually got there, vaguely, after being cornered by 3 separate photo drops. Then he kind of acknowledged he was there and there was a problem. Tell us what you are doing. He gets a D on that. Therapy, stepping away from the draft, but said reactively, are you kidding me? And then he stormed off the podium when the last question got too close. He gets a D on that. He stormed off the podium like a petulant child. Explain how you will fix things. Well, that's incomplete because right now he's just talking about therapy. You got to stay the course. Whatever you decide to do to fix the therapy and build trust again with, it's not just with the public. It's literally with your team. You are the leader. You are supposed to be exhibiting the leadership behavior, and that you've fallen flat. So it's too early to really judge, but right now he has a D because therapy, come on, dude, stop it. He still has a job. The Patriots are covering for him, but institutions cover. That's what they do. He used the word laughable, like it does not deserve any explanation. And maybe for the Patriots, they don't. I mean, come on. For Dianna, gathering information, she also gets a D. She hired a crisis communications person, which was smart. Then she coordinated her denial with Vrabel, the man named in the story. They coordinated, and it was terrible. This is textbook crisis error. You have a conflict of interest the size of the Grand Canyon in that conversation. So again, they're coordinating, which shows this isn't just a professional relationship. She's to acknowledge what's going on. She gets an F. Her resignation letter called the speculation unmoored from facts, while Page Six was literally publishing 6-year-old kissing photos. Unmoored, and she hasn't said anything since then. That is not a denial. That's a statement written by someone who has not fully reckoned with the whole situation. Tell us what you're going to do to fix this. She's a journalist. We're supposed to be able to trust her. She gets an F. She resigned. That's an exit, not a plan. The Athletics review of her reporting continues without her, and they have an ethical responsibility to do that. So glad they are handling that. But she just bounced. No accountability. Explain how you will fix this. That is what she needs to do to repair her reputation. Right now, that's incomplete. She deleted her X account. She went dark. She pulled her Instagram or put it on as private. She's going to need to figure that out and stay the course with whatever she decides to do to try to regain the trust of the public. So right now, it's too early to know if she's going to be able to repair her reputation. But going dark is not a strategy. That is a retreat. So overall, the both of them, they get a D minus. This is a mess. They have absolutely no control over this narrative. Vrabel has institutional cover. Russini doesn't, but she went dark. That means her reputational repair requires active strategic work that his simply does not need because he has an organization covering for him. Listen, the bottom line is, this is not just a messy personal story. And many people might be like, why do y'all care? Well, we trust journalists to give us accurate information. And if she's only feeding us what he wanted us to know, that's an ethical issue. Lord knows the internet has plenty of receipts on how this is more than just a personal story at this point. This is about how journalists who allegedly had a personal relationship with the subject was covering for 5+ years across 2 major outlets, and whose reporting on the subject, NFL, the teams that he was with, has now been called into question by her own employers. There's an ongoing review. 5 years of Titans reporting, stories published 5 days after the bar photo, a baby named Michael, a casino visit right after his firing from the Titans, an adults-only resort in Sedona. That is not one bad decision. That is a pattern across years, and the professional fallout from this pattern is still unfolding. This is crazy. When you are a journalist, your credibility is your entire product. The moment there's a reasonable doubt about whether your personal life influenced your personal output, every story you ever wrote about that person is in question. Every exclusive, every scoop, every contract extension highlight that was in that press release, all of it, all of the work you put in now is in question. That is the real crisis, not the kissing photo, the journalism ethics. That's the problem. That has to be looked at in a way that allows for you to know, especially right now, we should be able to trust our journalists that are delivering us information. And right now this is just a mess for her. It's a mess. Sorry. There's no other way to put it. It's not about the affair. It's about the distrust that you have built with the public. And for Mike, the word laughable, that also cost him his credibility because we don't believe nothing coming out of his mouth no more. You do not deny what already exists. You especially do not call it laughable when page 6 has the receipts, TMZ has the casino, and the internet is doing birth certificate math. Are you kidding me? The narrative does not wait for you to get ready. Control the narrative, or the streets will, and it will not be in your favor. So before you go, I need you to do three things. First, hit the subscribe button on this podcast. I want you to get over and share it with someone that loves sports conversation and narrative control, understanding PR, that whole thing. And then I want you to run over to Substack and subscribe to Control the Narrative for another deep dive. This actually has numbers and facts and figures in how this all plays out. The full timeline breakdown and the crisis communications debrief is there. The link is in the bio. Substack, I need you there, okay? I need you there. So until next time, good people, I want you to drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. How are they handling the crisis? What would you do different? Are there any situations you would love a crisis communications breakdown for? Because this story is not over. More is coming. And when it does, you're going to want to know where you can go to talk about it. All right? Again, Tanya is my name and controlling the narrative is my game, and I will see you next time.